Ever had one of those days where you think you're buying peace and quiet but end up getting front row seats to a slow burn civil war? Yeah, that was me. All I wanted was a sleepy lake, a fishing rod, and maybe, just maybe, a sunrise or two without some busybody telling me I was in violation of community standards. But as it turns out, when you buy land next to a homeowners association run by a power-drunk queen bee with a penchant for forged paperwork, well, let's just say life gets a little more colorful. My name's Cody Bryson, and let me tell you how I went from minding my own business on the dock to leading the most accidental neighborhood rebellion this side of the Rockies. You ever notice how real quiet has a sound? The morning I realized all hell was about to break loose. The valley was so still I could actually hear the mist rolling off the water. I'd been up since before dawn, old habits from too many years overseas, I guess. Strong coffee in hand, I made my way down to the little dock I'd built with my own hands, planks creaking under my boots, breath coming slow. The lake was glassy, the air full of that pine and earth smell, and for a minute I thought, hell, maybe this time I really did leave the trouble behind. Well, hold that thought. 15 minutes into my second cast, just as I was starting to feel human again there, it was a high-pitched electric whine. Out of the mist came a golf cart, white as a dentist's coat, with a big green HOA emblem painted on the side. Driving it was a woman who looked like she'd stepped off the set of The Real Housewives of Suburbia, lemon yellow windbreaker sunglasses the size of satellite dishes, and hair sprayed into what I can only describe as a helmet of platinum steel. She parked right at the edge of my property, didn't say good morning or even bother with fake pleasantries, just started snapping pictures of me like I was a trespassing raccoon. "This is restricted water," she barked, voice slicing across the lake. "You can't fish here without a permit." I just gave her the polite smile you reserve for stray dogs and door-to-door salesmen. "Private property," I called back, calm as you please. "Move along." She didn't. Zoomed in for a few more glamour shots, muttered into her phone, and took off in a cloud of gravel. Now I've run into her type before, people who get a little taste of authority and think it makes them emperor of the block. I figured she'd stomp home, maybe write an angry Facebook post, and that'd be the end of it. Oh, how wrong I was. 10 minutes later, the cavalry showed up. Not the kind you want, two county patrol cars rolling up with lights flashing, and sure enough, there was the golf cart again, parked behind them, like some deranged chariot. The queen bee herself stood by the fence, arms crossed, smiling that smug, "I've already won" kind of smile. "That's him," she shouted. "He's trespassing, poaching fish, violating our HOA lake rules." She made it sound like I'd run off with the crown jewels instead of just fishing for trout. The officers, young guy, older guy, asked for my ID and paperwork. I handed over my license, then pulled out the official deed and a certified map I kept in a waterproof tube by the gate. The real deal. Name's Cody Bryson. This is my ranch. The lake's on my property and it's registered private. Those signs aren't for decoration. While one officer checked the GPS, I fired up my phone and showed them the live feed from my dock camera. Her golf cart, her face, her snapping pictures 5 minutes before. The older cop handed back my documents and apologized. "Everything looks in order, Mr. Bryson. Sorry for the trouble." They turned to her and told her plain as day that the HOA had no claim here. She went red in the face, hissed, "This isn't over," and sped off, tires spinning. The officer shrugged and left, probably wishing they'd picked a different route for their morning shift. For a second, I just stood there, mist still curling off the water, my rod still propped on the dock, but now with a sour taste in my mouth. 3 days later, the mail brought a cream-colored envelope, gold seal HOA logo, my full name on the front like a summons. The letter inside read like it had been written by someone with a clipboard surgically attached to their hand. According to community records, my property supposedly overlapped with some shared ecological reserve. Apparently, fishing on my own lake was now a violation of Article 6A, and they were demanding I cease extractive activities, tear down my dock, and let their inspector onto my land within 5 days. They even included a map, except this one looked like it had been drawn by a drunk with a highlighter. The new boundary just happened to slice through my lake, gifting the HOA a wedge of shoreline that wasn't theirs. I'd seen the real survey, hell, I'd walked those lines myself. This was a straight-up fake. So that afternoon, I drove into town, walked into the county assessor's office, and pulled the official parcel map. Every inch of shoreline, every blade of grass around my lake mine and well inside my deeded property. Got it notarized, took it next door to the county recorder, and filed a legal challenge against any funny business with updated maps. Sent the whole stack to my lawyer, Darlene Cates, a pit bull in heels, if I ever met one. She called me back before dinner. They forged a map, she said, voice cold as a winter creek. That's not just civil, that's criminal. She wanted to hit them hard. I told her to wait, let them hang themselves a little more. Then the neighbors started in. I hadn't met a soul in the subdivision, but suddenly I was getting emails accusing me of polluting the lake, bringing down property values, and ruining the ecological harmony. Somebody even left a rolled-up note taped to my mailbox. Remove the illegal pier or face HOA action. You have been warned. No name, just the HOA logo stamped in the corner. I sat down on the dock that night watching the last of the sunset burn out over the water. I realized something: these people, they weren't going to quit. They'd convinced themselves that yelling, lying, and drawing enough fake lines on enough fake maps would bully me off my own land. But what they didn't know was I'd spent half my adult life dodging mortars overseas. They wanted a war fine. They picked the wrong damn fishermen. Didn't take long for them to prove it. One night around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed motion detected at the boathouse. I grabbed a flashlight and headed out, every sense on high alert. Down at the dock, there was a man in a dark uniform, reflective vest, clipboard in one hand, flashlight in the other, snooping around like he belonged there. I called out, "Can I help you?" He straightened up, flashed a badge-shaped patch that read Clear Pines Lakeside Security. Claimed he was conducting a mandatory inspection for the HOA. My patience snapped. "You're on private property at 3 in the morning. Put the clipboard down and step off." He insisted he had authority. I started filming, demanded his name. He tried to brush me off, but by then I'd already dialed 911 and put it on speaker. The deputy showed up fast. Recognized me from last time. Heard the story, saw the video, cuffed the guy for trespass and attempted unlawful inspection. Turns out he wasn't even licensed security. Just some local the HOA had paid under the table. By sunrise, I had a police report, a new video for the evidence folder, and a whole lot more adrenaline than I wanted. After that, the gloves came off. I started getting hate mail, anonymous voicemails. "You'll regret what you did to Martin. HOA hater, psycho." Flyers taped to every tree on my property, warning the community that a violator was loose on Lot 18B. Even found my mailbox smashed, and one morning, a dead fish with a note. "Hope the next one chokes you." I kept documenting photos, videos, emails. Darlene filed a cease and desist against the HOA and Karen personally, but the harassment just escalated. The final straw, the HOA filed an application with the county trying to redraw the boundary to include a chunk of my lake, citing some made-up historic maintenance jurisdiction. A land registrar showed up to inspect, polite enough, but it was clear this was now a coordinated land grab. And here's the twist. Turns out I wasn't the first. The registrar muttered, "You're the fourth case like this I've seen this year." So I started making calls. Talked to John and Nancy, an older couple who'd fought and won a similar case but kept it quiet. Another neighbor had his property value tank after the HOA poisoned the well with rumors. Darlene built a case group lawsuit. We were done playing defense. Meanwhile, Karen doubled down. Glossy HOA newsletters blaming me for environmental destruction, nighttime inspections. Another phony ordinance about emergency powers and lakeside structures. Didn't matter. I had cameras now, drone footage, official maps, witness statements, all of it. Then just when I thought they'd run out of tricks, the DA's office got involved. Why? Because we uncovered evidence of forged signatures, fake minutes from HOA meetings, and cash bribes offered to previous landowners, one of whom, Ellis Green, had sold me the property. Ellis met me at a diner, slid across a thick folder of maps, letters, and one very damning voicemail. "Don't worry. We'll take care of the lake once you're gone." He'd never granted the HOA any access, and he had it notarized. By the time we made it to court, it wasn't just about my dock. It was about Karen's pattern, using fake authority to gobble up land, bullying anyone who stood in her way, hiding behind community values while lining her own little empire. I sat at the plaintiff's table, flanked by Darlene, John, and Nancy and Ellis. Karen looked small, 2 rows back, arms folded tight, hair frazzled, eyes red. The prosecution laid it all out: fake 911 calls, forged maps, doctored filings. The highlight reel, Karen's own voice screaming that I was stealing fish from HOA water, played for the court like a bad comedy skit. Ellis took the stand, talked about how Karen pressured him to sell the lake, even offered cash. Jury wasn't buying her defense of passionate community service. Deliberation took under 2 hours. Guilty on all counts: fraudulent filings, harassment, trespassing, defamation. 50 grand in damages, banned from HOA leadership for a decade, year-long probation. The HOA had to pay all legal fees, issue public apologies. And the cherry on top, the DA announced a criminal investigation for potential felony records tampering. 3 days later, I went back to my dock, sun going down, water calm for the first time in months. I'd installed a bronze plaque on the railing, just a little inside joke for myself. It read, "Caught a big fish, then caught Karen. Both put up a fight. Only one ended up back in the lake." Couldn't help but laugh. And here's what hit me, sitting there with the ducks and the sound of the water, a sort of late-in-life truth you don't see coming. Sometimes the people shouting loudest about community are really just covering for their own greed. Sometimes the law can actually catch up with the bullies if you're stubborn enough to dig in and fight, and if you find the right people to stand with you. It's not about winning some kind of war, it's about drawing a line and saying, "This is mine, and I'm not moving." But I still wonder, if Karen hadn't been caught, how many more lakes, backyards, or old folks' homes would have been quietly stolen, one fake map at a time? Makes you ask, where's the line between community and control, between neighborly concern and outright tyranny? What would you do if it was your land, your home on the line? So let's hear it. Share your own stories, your take on what's right and wrong, or a time you stood up for yourself against the odds. Because sometimes the only way to make the world a little fairer is to call out the bullies and keep your camera rolling.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video của mình.